Discuss deficit financing, the act process of financing, supporting the fiscal deficit budget by the government is deficit financing. In this process, the government knows well in advance that its total expenditure is going to turn out to be more than its total receipts, and next follows such financial policy so that it can sustain the burden of the deficit project proposed by its first used in the area of the public finance in the early 1930s. In US today, the term is being used in the corporate sector too, and such a financial management of a firm might be followed by it as part of its business strategy. Again, a Sikh firm might need to follow the deficit financing route for many years to come, as required by the firm to make it come out. Okay, so compared to the such financial management. Okay, so again, a secret firm might need to follow the financing route for many years to come, as required. The firm make it come out of the rate that is being away from the without losses. Need of deficit financing. It was in the late 1920s. There was the idea and need of deficit financing was felt. It is when government needs to spend more money than it was expected to earn or generate in a particular period to go for a desired level of growth and development. Had there been some means to go for more expenditures with the less incomes and recipients received, the political goals could have been realized as for the aspiration of the public policy, and once the growth had taken place, the extra money was spent above the income would have been reimbursed or repaid. This was a good public government which was fulfilled by the evolution of the idea of deficit financing. It was by the early 1930s that the US first tried its hand at deficit financing, soon to be followed by the whole Euro-American governments. Though this route the developed world was able to come out of the remains of the Great Depressions. The idea became popular around the world by the 1960s. India had tried its hands at deficit financing in 1969, and since the 1970s, it became a routine phenomena until it became overwhelmed and illogical, demanding immediate redressal. It is the fiscal deficit in India. It did not only peak to did not only peak to the unsustainable levels, but its impositions was also not justified and not based on sound fundamentals of economics. Finally, India headed for a sober, confident process of fiscal reforms. It is also known as the process of fiscal consolidation. Okay, to be discussed in the coming page. Means of deficit financing. Once deficit financing becomes an established part of the public funds around the world, this means the means of going for it were also evolved with their time. This means basically are the ways in which the government may utilize the amount of money created as the deficit to sustain its budget for development or political needs. These means are given below in order of the suggested and tried preferences. External aids are the waste money as means to fulfill government's deficit requirements, even if it is coming with soft interest. If they are coming without interest, nothing but could be better. When India went to borrow from the IMF in the wake of the financial crisis of 1990 to 1991, the body advised India to keep its fiscal deficit to the tune of 5% of the GDP, and noted it to be sustainable for the economy. What was the rationale behind this idea? This data basically in those times with the foreign aid soft loans either from the World Bank from the 8 India Forum, India was able to manage its budget to the tune of 4.5% of the GDP. In 2002, when India's fiscal deficit was around 6%, 5.7% of the to be precise. The IMF validated it to be sustainable. The reasons were to first, India was able to show a check on fiscal deficit, and secondly, at the same time, the forex reserves of the country were suitably higher to neutralize the negative impacts of the higher fiscal deficit than the suggested levels. 4.5% external grants and even better elements in this case, which comes free neither interest nor any repayments, but it either did not come to India since 1975 at the year of the Pokhran state testing, or India did not accept it, as happened to the post-tsunami. Outgoing grants is coming with tight conditions. This is why here these segments have not been discussed as a means to manage deficit. External borrowings are the next best way to manage fiscal deficit, with the conditions that the external loans are comparatively cheaper and long term. Though external loans are considered as erosion in the nation's sovereign domestic decision making process, this has its own benefit and is considered better than the internal borrowings due to the two reasons. External borrowings being the foreign currency, hard currency, which gives extra edge to the government's spending, and by this the governments may fulfill its developmental requirements inside the country as well as from outside the country. It is preferred over internal borrowings or due to crowding out effect. If the government itself does on borrowing from the banks of the country, from here will others borrow for investment purpose. Internal borrowings comes as a third preferred route of fiscal deficit management, but going for it in a huge way they hampers the investment prospects of the public and the corporate sector. It has the same impact on the expenditure pattern in the country, in the economy. Ultimately, economy has got a double negative impact: lower investment leading to lower production, lower GDP, and lower per capita income, etc. The lower demands by the general public as well as the corporate world in the economy. The economy moves either for stagnation or for a slowdown. One can see them happening in India repeatedly throughout the 1960s, 1970s, 1980. The situation improved after the mid-1990s. Printing currency is the last resort for the government in managing its deficit, but it has the biggest handicap that with it the government cannot go for the expenditures which are to be made in the foreign currency, even if the government is satisfied on this formed printing fresh currencies does have other damaging effects on the economy. It increases inflation proportionally. India regulator regularly went for it since 1970. Early 1970, and usually we have double-digit inflation. It brings it in regulatory pressure and obligations on the government for upward revision in wages and salaries of government employees. So here ultimately increasing the government expenditure necessary future further printing of currency and further inflation, a vicious cycle into which economics entail themselves. Now it remains a matter of choice and availability of the above given means, and which means the government adopts, and its what proportion for fulfilling the deficit requirements. Composition of the fiscal deficit. Last it is, you can see an idea of deficit financing through it. He advocated it. He had a cash in catch in it also foods, which was usually missed by the third world economies or intentionally overlooked by them. The catch is related to the question as to why an economy wants to go for fiscal deficit. Thus, it became estimated essential to go for an analysis of the composition of the fiscal deficit of a government out of the two broad expenditure obligations. The obligations of a government: revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. The following combination of the expenditure composition has suggested a fiscal deficit with a surplus revenue budget or a zero revenue expenditure. It is the best composition of fiscal deficit and the most suitable time for deficit financing. The deficit for requirements for lower revenue expenditures and higher capital expenditure at the next best situation for deficit financing, provided revenue deficit is eliminated soon. The last could be the situation where major part of deficit financing is to fulfill revenue expenditure and a minor part to go for capital expenditures. The total money of the deficit might go to fulfill revenue expenditures, which could be the worst form of it. Basically, there should be a judicious mix of planned and non-planned expenditures, as well as revenue and capital expenditures. In India, lesser non-planned expenditure or higher planned expenditure are better reasons behind deficit financing in India. Though India has a typical features of capital expenditure, which makes this combination of deficit financing not a suggested form of discussed ahead. The third world economics, including India, though went for higher fiscal policy, fiscal deficit and deficit financing. They either did not address to failed to address the consumption composition of the deficit favorable towards capital and non-capital expenditure. So next we discuss fiscal policy. Thank you.